It's my pleasure today to introduce Henani Enos. Henani is a teacher, math, science, and traditional wayfinding teacher. He works at Kula na wahi public charter school on Hawaii Island. He's also a faculty member at the UH Hilo Hawaiian Language College and a member of the Polynesian Voyaging Society. He was mentored by Chad Babayan, who actually spoke to this class a number of years ago before he passed away. And Henani has extensive experience in voyaging through the Hawaiian Islands and also the Pacific. And so just pleased he's here today to share some of his experiences and knowledge with us. So take it away, Henani.
Okay, yeah. Mahalo, Mike. Good job on the Hawaiian names. Aloha to all of you. Mahalo for having me here. I'm very passionate about sailing. I was able to travel so many different places. I'm not really a traveler when it comes to being on a plane. So I've seen more of the world through the canoe than I actually did flying. So I owe a lot to sailing, and anytime I get asked to speak on it, I never turn it down because I have a responsibility now to share what I have. So I'll go ahead and share my PowerPoint. I myself, when I learn, I need to see things. I'm a visual kind of learner, so hopefully this helps. I titled this presentation "Kele Keaweawe Kupuna," or "Sailing in the Wake of My Ancestors." As I mentioned, everything I do, the information had been handed down from kupuna or grandparents and those from the past, and so I feel like they're with me all the time as long as I'm doing good. And so this title kind of reminds me to stay on that right path, you know. And like I said before, as we share our information, not only the information lives on, but then the kupuna, yeah, our elders, those are teachers, they continue to live on also. I want to begin with kind of a short history of the Hokulea canoe and the Polynesian Voyaging Society. I'm sure you guys have some knowledge about it already. But this guy here, Thor Heyerdahl, he was a Norwegian explorer and an archaeologist. And he, for the longest time, believed that the Polynesian islands had been settled from South America, from Peru, and not from Asia. And so in the early 1940s, he started to do his research, and he built a raft with just balsa wood. He had about 8 of those tied on there. And he set off from Peru with 5 of his colleagues, no engine on there. He just put the sail up, and wherever the wind took him and the currents, that's where he was going to go. And so by doing this, he wanted to prove that the Polynesian people did come out of South America. And this was a courageous guy because it took them, they were at sea for about 100 days. They traveled over 4,000 miles. And this here is a picture of them reaching that island for the very first time, which is in the Tuamotus, which is pretty close to Tahiti. So they ended up way down in the South Pacific. And they made it there safely, just by the winds and the swells and the currents. Another a writer named Andrew Sharp, he had a theory, and this is the main part of it, and that's why I put it up on here so you guys can read it, but I'll go ahead and say it too. He said, deliberate long voyaging and colonization were impossible. Hawaii, New Zealand, and other detached islands in the Pacific were each settled by one or more accidental one-way voyages of orphans of the storm, or exiles, hoping to find land. And so because of these two ideas, theories, these guys who lived here in Hawaii, Herb Kane, Ben Finney, and Tommy Holmes, in fact, excuse me, let me go back. So this Kontiki one, he ended up writing a book about the journey, and they actually made a movie about it too. That's a really, really interesting one there. Andrew Sharp, like I said, he wrote a book also, and these became very popular books. And so these three guys, they read the book, and they were a little confused because they knew the history of wayfinding and navigation to some degree through the stories, the verbal ones that have been passed down. And here I just list a few of the early mariners in our genealogy of Hawaii. And we hear stories about these guys. And in the yellow are stars that were mentioned in the stories, stars that they followed to arrive here in Hawaii, and also stars to return back to the South Pacific, Tahiti, Samoa, Tonga, and those areas. So there were a lot of these stories. A lot of it was through the Hawaiian language, and so it was understood by those three that it was more than accidental and just by chance, the voyaging, and it was more than just a one-way. There was a highway between here and the South Pacific, according to the many stories that we have. And so in 1973, they formed the Polynesian Voyaging Society, and they did their research on canoes, Polynesian canoes, and also the Hawaiian canoes, which there was not too much information about it. And what they ended up doing was making a replica of a Hawaiian one. And it was called okalaniʻo, which we know is the Arcturus star. It was named after it, not only because it's the zenith star, but Herb Connie had a dream one night, and this name came to mind. So it was very, very appropriate to name it. So this canoe was birthed in 1975, 2 years later. And they went, practiced sailing, went all throughout the state. And there was like one minor detail that they missed, and that was there was no one who knew how to navigate by the stars in Hawaii. Nobody at all, because the voyaging from the South Pacific to Hawaii and back had stopped, according to our genealogy, at about the 1400s. So for about maybe 500 to 600 years, no one sailed across the Pacific Ocean. They have sailed, of course, the Hawaiian people sailed in between islands, but not long distance navigation. So there was no one left to help, because Hokulea was built kind of as a experiment, actually, to see if they could go that route that they've heard throughout the stories, that back down to Tahiti, just by observing the natural elements out there. And their idea was just do it once and then see what happens from there. And then you guys know, went around the world, and it's traveled so many nautical miles. So in lacking a navigator with that kind of knowledge, they started to look around. No one throughout the Pacific, I mean, not the Pacific, but the Polynesian Triangle, there was no one left. There was maybe a handful in Melanesia, and there was about 6 gentlemen left that were still living in Micronesia. And so that's where they ended up going, in Sarawak, Micronesia, and they found this guy, Pius Mau Piailug. He was the youngest of everyone who knew how to navigate by the stars, ocean currents, and all of that. So he agreed to come to Hawaii and to help the Hawaiian people, you know. And when he came, he brought with him knowledge that of traditional navigation that had not been broken. It was continuous throughout their islands and throughout his family. And he was initiated into this honorable class of po, or expert navigator, early in his life. And then no one else was initiated after him. And so he taught some of our Hawaiian mariners, and these 5 ended up learning a lot from him, to the point where he felt like they had attained or mastered all of those skills. And so he bestowed upon them that title, the same title that he had. And he did the same ceremony down in Micronesia about 2000, oh man, 5 or 7, somewhere around there, the early 200s. Nainoa Thompson, which is the president of PVS, Polynesian Voyaging Society, and the spokesperson for it. Chad Unohi Paishon, which is from, I'm here on Hawaii Island, and he's from here. Shorty Bertelman is also from this island. Bruce Blankenfeld, which is a brother-in-law to Nainoa, he's on Oahu. And Chad Babayan, he was from Kona, and he had passed. And so they were given that title of Master Navigator. It's the first time that anyone outside of Micronesia had received that title. And then, yeah, and so I had the privilege, the honor of learning from all of them. And especially from Chad, who Mike had mentioned previously, who had also spoken in here also a couple of years ago. So I just want to acknowledge him because a lot of the information that I share today will come from what he has entrusted with me. Yeah, so we lost him 3 years ago, but he's always with me as long as I keep teaching and practicing traditional navigation. So I want to introduce the Hawaiian Star Compass, which is a spin-off of the Micronesian Star Compass. If I go back to this one here, this is the Maopiailu, the way that he taught the star compass with the coral rocks over here and some fiber rope. And then Chad taught us the same way. So the star compass here, so when we're out in the ocean, what we see in our mind as we look out to the horizon is this right here. It's not a physical one, but that's what we see in our mind. So this compass, it has a north and a south, and then we also have the east side where everything appears to arrive. We call it hikina, or to arrive. And where it sets, goes down into the ocean, is komo, to go into, so komohana, which is west. Yeah. And so we have on the eastern side, as we all know, everything appears from that side, and then they set in the west. With this compass, everything that's in the northern hemisphere, of course, will stay in the northern hemisphere. Nothing really crossing over the equator. So same thing with those in the south. Yeah, they'll stay in the south. There's 4 quadrants to this. So the first quadrant here is a ko'olau, which is the northeast, and it's named after winds that blow in from that side, from the northeast. Yeah, the ko'olau. Southeast, we have Malanai, and then Kona, which is very popular. We know about Kona winds that come in, they bring the warm winds that also bring storms. And then we have the Ho'olua, the 4th quadrant, which is a northwest. We got colder winds that come from there. These we also use to describe, land areas too. Yeah, so the Ko'olau, or northeast, is very popular on Oahu. There's a Ko'olau mountain range. So it's really not just had to do with navigation, but it's the 4 main directions that people use in their everyday lives. That's in the long distant past. But within each of these quadrants, we see that there's different, what we call houses. So north, south, east, and west are 4 cardinal points or houses, and then there's 7 within each quadrant, and they each have a name. One is La, or the sun. The sun is usually in this house. Aina, we know, is land. Hawaii is found at this latitude. There's Noyo, the bird, which I'll talk about a little bit later, a bird that we use in navigation. Right in the middle is Manu, or the bird. We look at the canoe as a bird that's gliding across the ocean. Nalani, or the heavens, which is where we look at for guidance. Naleo, or the voices that we feel we hear from our ancestors that talk to us through the stars. And then the last, which is close to the north, is Haka, which is empty. And we know we don't have as many visible stars in that area. Now, from the north to south axis, there's a mirror image of this. So over on the northwest, we have La also, Aina, and then it goes on up to Haka again, or empty, surrounding the northern house. And then even across the east to west axis, we got that mirror image again throughout. So the sun we see, where La is right above the equator and below, as we know, the sun travels through those houses. Now, just like a regular compass, there needs to be something something that we can rely on and really count on. So for us, of course, it's the hoku pa'a, or the star that's firm, Polaris. And the way this compass works is that if a star comes up in the quadrant of Ko'olau, in the hale of Naleo, it'll cross over the meridian and it'll enter into the house of the exact same name, but in the opposite quadrant. If it comes up in Aina, it's the same idea throughout the compass. Between Nalani and Naleo, it'll go down between Nalani and Naleo also. The sun too, we know that the sun travels, appears to travel throughout the year. We see them at different places along the horizon. It'll make its way down into the La that's in the southeast and the southwest. And in fact, also the moon does the same thing. So these stars, how do we use this compass along with the stars? So these are, I just picked out a few of the stars, and we got different, we call them star families or star lines. There's 4 of them. And I'm sure by looking at this, you guys already recognize these constellations. So the first one that we'll look at here is called the Makali'i, or the Baler. People that paddle canoe, you always have like some kind of scooper or a bail in case the water fills the canoe. You can bail it out. In the old days, it was a gourd cut in half, so that's what this picture is. And so we call this star line the Ka, or the Baler. Of Makali'i, who was a early voyager who arrived here in Hawaii from Tahiti. The second star line that follows that one there is this long backbone, which we call the Iwi Kuamo'o. That's the Hawaiian word for backbone. It has a shape, and it's a long one too, from Polaris all the way down to the Southern Cross. Following that star line, we see the like Scorpio. But for us, this is, we call it the Makau Nui a Maui, the Makau, or the fish hook of Maui, the demigod. And some of us know the story. It's well known all throughout Polynesia. And Maui was known for pulling islands up out of the sea. And so it's believed that he pulled up the islands here in Hawaii too. And so Scorpio, for us, it's the fish hook, the Makau, that belongs to Maui. Here's a picture of the ulua, or the giant trevally fish. In our version of the story, Maui set out to actually catch the pimoe, this huge ulua fish. And so that is Sagittarius. And then the fourth one, following the Makau, will be the lupe, or the kite of Kawelo. And there's a story in our history. Kawelo was a chief from Kauai, and he was known for flying kites. We did have kites in the old days, 4 different shaped ones. And so in here too, we see a familiar constellation in here, and even Cepheus up there on the top too, Cassiopeia. Here, I'll just show real quickly the names. I'm not too familiar with the English, or I'm so familiar with the Hawaiian names. Those are the names we use on the canoe. So these are the names. We see familiar like Orion, yeah. Sirius, a bright star there. Again, Hokupa'a or Polaris. Of course, the Big Dipper, Little Dipper comes down to Hokulea Arcturus, the zenith star for us. We go through Corvus, and then we come down to the Southern Cross. Again, this is the Scorpio here. And then here. So these stars, like I said, they all come up in a hale or house, and they go down in the same house. So now I've got lines on here that mark the houses, along with the names of those houses on both sides, on the left and the right. And they correspond to this compass that I showed. So let's say, what's this? The Big Dipper. The Big Dipper lies within this house, which is Nalani. So on the star compass, yeah, it'll be this one here. So we know by memorizing the houses that they come up in, when we see the Big Dipper come up, we know that part of the compass is the house of Nalani. And then when it sets, we know that that's Nalani also. Same thing here, east and west along the equator. You guys know about Orion's belt, especially Mintaka, yeah? And so when we see these stars come up on the horizon, we know that that is due east, and then exactly where it sets to. And so like I said, and you guys know this too, these star lines appear through this, in this sequence. So when we see the ka, or the Baylor of Makali'i, and we know as it moves up towards the meridian overhead, as it's moving, the next star line will come in. Yeah, we'll see it at the horizon. And then as it continues down to the western horizon, they move all together until eventually we see all four different, well, we don't really see them, but go through the four different star lines within a 24-hour period. As we know, the stars, they appear a few minutes earlier each night. So, and thank goodness for that. Then we get to see we see each star sometime throughout the year. Yeah, we're not looking at the same one. So, knowing the time of year when they're seen the most, especially right above us, for us in navigation, it really helps us. Now, how do we use this on the canoe? Because you can memorize all of these different houses and the star names, but using it on a canoe is kind of a different story there. So here is a picture of Hokulea, and I want to focus on these seats over here. There's two of them, one on the left side, or ama, right side of the akea. Those are known as the navigational platform or seats, and that's where the navigator sits. He will go between both seats throughout the whole voyage. Here it is again on the back. It's on the back corner of the canoe. One more view here. So looking towards the left side of the canoe, the amaya, on the railings, there's markings on here. We used to carve it in there, notch it in, but now we have a change of times and we got fluorescent tape there. So those marks, they're marked each house that corresponds with the star compass. So we see these on the left side railing, and it's usually observed from the right side of the canoe. And then here, the akea, or the right side, the railings on the right side, they have the exact same markings. So it's like a mirror image from left to right on the canoe. And it also goes up in the front and in the back. So this picture here is taken from the left side of the canoe looking towards the right. So here you can see it again, kind of split view here, left and right. Here you see it on the back too. These are two different akua or gods that are important to us, that goes with us sailing too. One is a female, one is a male. So, like I said, the navigator will be in this corner here, and or the opposite side. But from here on the right side, he'll make all of his observations towards the left and the front of the canoe. Nothing on the right side, because as he looks over the right side, there's nothing, no part of the canoe for him to look at. The stars will be there, of course, but he won't have anything to line up the stars with. So he'll look towards the right, the left, and the front. And like I said, he'll switch sides too. And from the left side, he'll observe all of the stars that he'll see on the right side of the canoe and towards the front. And all of these stars that he observes are all low, close to the horizon. So they're just coming up, or they're starting to, we'll see them for a couple of hours and they'll be too low. So here, looking from the top, wherever the navigator goes, that is the center of the compass. So if he's in this corner, the right corner, this is what it looks like, right in the middle of the canoe. And you can see where those lines, where we have the tape on the railings, those lines continue out and they match up with the compass. So we have the compass that's on the ocean, and the canoe is also a compass. And then again, he'll switch sides from the, like I said, from the left seat, he'll observe everything over on the right side and in the front. So if we say the backbone star line is on the eastern horizon, and then we see like Hikupau at the very end of the Big Dipper. We see that it's in the house. We know that it comes out of the house called Manu. Yeah, so we'll see them over here on the horizon. So what we do is we make sure we keep that star within those marks, corresponding marks on the canoe railing. So, and that's how it goes with all of them. Hokule'a, our zenith star, is in the house of Aina. And of course, the North Aina, yeah, the northern hemisphere. So we'll make sure it sits between these markings here. Hikianalia or Spica also, which is in La, same idea, you know. And we keep it there. As much as we can, we try to keep it there to be steady, yeah. So these would be like the three main stars at that time that we use for navigation. Now, as you're sailing, sometimes it's, you know, we kind of get blown off track, or if the steers person is not too good at it, those stars could end up moving out of those markings. So in this case, we see it, they're not in where they're supposed to be. They had moved out. So then we need to make the adjustments right away. So the navigator will let the steersman know, hey, you got to move that canoe. We got to take it towards the left. So when we do that, the stars would jump back into the appropriate markings. And then you continue on again, and you constantly doing that the whole voyage. Yeah. So these stars there. So we'll see them. Sorry, let me see. So they look like this as they come up. Yeah. We see it in number 8 too. Oh, so we don't have numbers on the canoe. I just put this here just to try and show this, you know. And then there's also one in number 11, which we really can't see in this slide. But these are the stars that will be on those railings that come up on the east side. And then we know, of course, they're moving. Yeah, they're not stationary. So we use them for maybe 2, at the very most 3 hours, because after that they get up too high. They're too high for us to be able to keep an accurate position. So when that happens, eventually, you know, other stars will come up, and then we make sure that we have them. Once we identify them, that they're in the right spot too. Now, when he jumps over to the opposite side, so here he's in the center of the compass again. He's on the right side now. So he's going to be using the stars that's going down on the western horizon, yeah? So which star line is next, yeah? So we always remember which is the opposites, yeah? So if the Ivikua Mo'o is on Hikina, then we know we have the kite, which is on the opposite side. So here, we have the picture of it, but in our mind, we already have it all memorized. So let's say over here, we have Mano Kalaniʻo. And this is within the house of Noyo. So when it appears on the horizon, it'll be in this area here. So we'll keep it there within those markings, really close to that marking on the rating there. Pi'ikea, this one here, which is in Aina, right just inside of Aina. So we'll keep it close to that mark as much as we can. And then also we see Cassiopeia here. Most of it is in Nalani. So we have another one. The more stars that we can use, the more accurate our course will be. And then you know, of course, with Cassiopeia, we can see the North Star too, yeah. We always see them in the Northern Hemisphere. So we also got that one that we can use directly in front of the navigator here. So that would be a simple one to steer by. Yeah, so these are the houses. And then again, if they move out of the house, we know we have gotten off track, yeah. So the steers person has to make that adjustment. The right one, we move it to the left this time to bring them back into the right markings on the ratings. So we see them in numbers 1, 4, 6, and 11. So here we'll see them 1, 4, 6. We don't see 11, sorry, but you guys get the idea. You know? So those will be the stars that he'll keep on the railing over on the west side. You know? And then, of course, they're going down too. They're going to go sleep. So they'll go down except for the Polaris. Polaris will move because we're heading to Polaris, so he'll go up a little. You know? So once they go down, before we lose them, we're already looking at the next star line that's coming up. Yeah, so the one between, the one that follows the kite, which for us is that Baylor, yeah, the Baylor of Makali'i. So then those stars will eventually come down. And then we'll make sure that they are in their appropriate markings also. And that's how we use the stars on the canoe. It's fairly simple. When you do it though, I mean, it looks like all of us could navigate it right now, the way the presentation goes. Let's say if we go from Hanalei, and I go from Hanalei, I want to visit you guys over there in Manoa. So we get the idea of where we're going, and then we think it out, which house it is on the compass. And then we use, depending on what star lines are low at the time when we leave. And then we just make sure that they're in the right positions. And then that's how we get there. And then, like I said, like the navigator will be constantly moving from one seat to the other. He rarely sleeps. He takes cat naps, maybe half an hour at the most each time. The same thing goes for the Tahiti, which is a really long one, yeah. 2,500 miles down south. So this will be the ideal line to get there as quick as we can. But I mean, we all know we got the trade winds that blow, yeah. And depending on how strong they are and how fast or actually slow we go, if we go slow, we drift even more. So of course that won't be the route to take because we're going to totally miss the island. So then we plan a course that's more upwind, yeah. We'll go up maybe 2 or 3 different houses. So when looking at the star compass, a straight shot will go right to the house of Haka, or the empty one. But instead, though, because of the trade winds, we may go to Nalani or even to Manu. We go maybe 3 houses. It all depends. We'll change it too if we need to, as we go on that course. Yeah. And then same thing again. Look for those stars. Yeah. Before we lose them, we start to look and we figure out the other ones. Before they get too high, we start looking. There's always stars that we use, and we always got to be ahead. So like in Tahiti, the one going down to Tahiti, we see Kealiʻo Kone Kalebo, what's this, Canopus? Yes. Yep, that one way down there. So we'll see them on here at the house of Nalani. So we'll just make sure that we keep them right there in front of us, yeah, as we go, at least for a couple of hours. There's also another star between La and Aina. We'll keep it right on the mark there. And then also in the star line, of course, we have Orion's belt, and we'll keep them within those markings of number 6 on the canoe. Yeah, and then we'll make it there, and the Tahitian people will say "Yorana aloha." This is a picture taken when Hokulea arrived there for the first time after what, 600 years in 1976. It took them about a month to get down there. The whole canoe was just swamped by thousands of people that showed up there. I put this in here just so that I don't forget. So stars, when they're up high, close to the meridian, they're really kind of, we use them just kind of as a general direction, north, south, east, and west, but they're not very useful in keeping accurate marks, yeah, for us. So like I said, as only the ones close to the horizon are very beneficial to us as we navigate. I just wanted to share, oh wow, the time is going. Yeah, just to get an idea of what the canoe voyaging lifestyle is like. Preparation, there's constant, because it's wood, constant working on it, lashings, they have to be redone. A lot of teamwork involved. Fitness, man, you always gotta keep yourself fit. You gotta be able to pull the ropes and do all of that. There's we practice man overboard drills, swimming all the time, especially treading water, first aid, CPR, rescue skills. Of course, there's this before we even set out, planning out the whole trip ahead of time. So whenever there's any changes that happens, we're not very surprised, and we can make up for it at some point during the voyage. So of course, studying the stars, preparing the canoe again, cleaning everything. Everything has to be clean, even the ropes. Make sure there's nothing stuck in the rope that can cut someone's hand. A lot of cleaning. Putting things down in storage, which is what we see here in the bottom picture, and that's also where we sleep in there. Loading up the canoe, the water. Everyone has about a gallon of water that we allot for a day. So rationing the water, we take a lot of water. Try not to take more than we need to. That way the canoe is not too heavy. Life vests all the time. Just more teamwork stuff and rope work. Planning out whose job will be, what will be their kuleana. These are different job titles on the canoe. So the captain will be the main person. He calls all of the shots. Everything that goes on, he's in charge of it. Everyone on there, the crew. Usually there's, he'll usually take about 12 to 13 people with him, and they work in shifts. So sometimes you can have 2. You split the group in half. 6 will work while the other 6 is sleeping, and you do that for 6 hours, and then you switch out. And then the other guys go to sleep while those that woke up will start working for 6 hours, and you do that the whole trip. You're always going to have the navigator He has no job. No, I shouldn't even say that. He has the most important job, but that's what he does. He doesn't help pulling any ropes or any steering, none of that. So concentrating, making all of his calls and his readings hundreds of times throughout each day. So here you see them, they're measuring. So we calibrate our hands ahead of time and they're measuring the distance between the sun and certain houses, or even the height also. As we get closer to land, we start to see birds. So there's some birds that we see far out, and those birds, like the boobies, yeah, they're out like all year, even for several years. So we don't, there are not really any sign of anything. A lot of times they'll just land on a canoe and I think just take a break or to say hi. But as we get closer to land, within 100 miles, then we start to see other birds, and those are the ones like the noyo, the naughty tern. There's a white tern. Those are the ones that usually set out in the morning to go get the food, fish and squid, and in the late afternoon, early evenings, they'll head back, take it back to their family. And so those are signs that we use. We know that land is near. Yeah. So if it's in the evening, we'll follow them home. If it's in the morning, we'll go on the opposite of their direction that they're going. Here's a picture of the navigator. Everyone sleeps down below, but he's up on the top. He'll go down when he wants to, but he's usually right up there where he can wake up and then take a look and take his readings again. This picture here is of the catwalk. He measures the speed, which is super, super important, how fast we're going, so that you know how many miles we had gone by the end of the day. So he's constantly measuring the speed, and all we do is we'll take a look at the bubbles that flow out from the front of the canoe, and we time it as it reaches the back of the canoe. And there's a formula that we use. So, and we came out with 25. So if you measure, if you time those bubbles and they go for like 5 seconds, we divide it into the 25, and we know that we're going 5 nautical miles. Another important person on there will be the fisherman. We always have fishing lines out there because we pack all of our different foods, but this is a present for us when we receive we catch any kind of fish. We always have 2 lines that's trolling out there. So he'll make the fish right away, and then usually we'll eat it raw, of course. The next meal after that, then it'll be cooked, and anything after that, we end up cutting them up and we dry them out so that it'll last longer. But we'll cook up the bones too. Yeah, we make soup with it. The cook, another important, very, very important person. The morale of the canoe can really go down if this guy is not on it, man. His time, yeah, seriously, man. His timing has to be correct. He's got to read the people, and once he see, he getting this, people starting to get hungry, he's supposed to already have been starting the cooking. And we eat all kind, of course, salmon, a lot of canned stuffs. And then, like I said, the fish when we get them. But they bake cakes on there. We got the propane tanks on there. Stove, 2 burners. There's no coolers with ice on board. And then some of the other working that goes on, constantly cleaning the canoe. We have to keep it. We cannot afford anyone to get sick. All kinds of germs to get passed around. It's spick and span all the time. The ropes have to be nice and neat. In fact, we take much better care of the canoe than we probably do our own homes. The steers person, sometimes when the ocean is really rough, there's like 5. Everyone on the work shift is usually helping to steer. The rope work, again, there's a lot of ropes to be pulled and a lot of teamwork, always teamwork, doing it in unison. Sails to be moved up and down. You can have it up to 4 sails at a time. So much work with the sails going on. We go through some rough seas, of course, where they break, not really break, but more like splash. because there's swells, not really breaking surf on there. Go through some squalls, yeah. A lot of cold times too, but the work has to keep going. Sometimes when the winds are so strong, we have to just close up the sails. We don't want to risk anything getting snapping or breaking, or even people getting hurt too. So we wait out the storm. Winds blowing in different directions, so moving the sails putting them in the right spot, make the best use of the wind. So like I said, yeah, if we go too slow, sometimes we drift too much off course if the winds are strong. If you want to go from point A to point B, sometimes if the wind is coming from there, you cannot sail to the wind. So there's this zigzagging, we call it tacking. Sometimes you can see the island and it can take you like days to get there. And it's like one of the hardest thing to go through. You just want to get there. Like I said, this is where we sleep. There's a plywood and like an inch of foam there where we sleep. This is where we go and relieve ourselves on that catwalk there. The one, number 1 and number 2. And then a few other things. There's crafts that people make. There's always someone that plays a ukulele or a guitar. A lot of singing goes on. There's science experiments that go on too. More cleaning, and of course, exercising. Doing push-ups, sit-ups. We grab the coils of rope and you do curls with them. And if it rains, it gets heavier, then you can get a better workout. Gotta really stay in shape. One last thing. So going back to the stars, I just wanted to say that over here in the yellow, these are the names of Hawaiian, the month names, the traditional names. So, we have January, February, March. The Hawaiian people also had names of the months, and these are the different names, but they all correspond to a star of that name. And so when the observer or the expert saw that star in a certain area in the sky, that's when he named that month. So not too many people know that, but it dictated their whole the whole year, yeah, what names of the months there were. And then the very last, and this is Mao again from Micronesia. And then I like this saying. He said, so when he went down the first time, he sailed the canoe down to Tahiti. He never went that route before. He never did sail it, but he said, okay, and he did it. And they arrived there safely. And he said, people are saying how courageous and smart he was. And this was his response. If I have courage, it is because I have faith in the teachings of my ancestors. Yeah, so that is that's the end of my presentation. Maybe if there's questions, I may be able to answer.
Great, thanks so much. Questions?
I'm curious what you do.
Did you hear the
Can you ask that again?
Yeah, what do you do in the daytime when there's no stars?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, good question. So the very beginning of the day is very important with the sun. So we use the sun, yeah. Then we see where the sun comes up, make sure it's in that right house. And as it gets high, we're just using the swells for the rest of the day. So once we're on this certain route, yeah, the canoe will move up and down in a certain pattern, and we keep that same pattern. When you're out in the open ocean, those swells will continue on. As we get closer to land, it'll start to change, yeah, because it's gonna bounce off of the island, and we'll get some of that kickback, and then it'll fold around the island. But when you're out there in the deep ocean, it stays the same. So we gotta get used to that rocking, and people are really good at it. You can tell when you're off just a little bit, and then you move the steering paddle. And then when the sun goes down again, we'll check again that it's in the correct house, and then we get ready for the stars. Same thing happens when it's cloudy at night, and it happens a lot too. We have to keep that same rocking motion. That's the only thing we have. to steer by. Good question.
Birds too near close to
Other questions or questions on Zoom?
Aloha. Hey everyone.
Aloha.
This is Henani from Hilo. Mahalo for letting me join in on your seminar and this awesome talk. Mahalo Henani for presenting. I really enjoyed it, and I was wondering if one of the first slides you presented about the different navigator stories, the different master navigators and the genealogy we have through the Hawaiian Islands. Do you ever do any talks like more just about those stories?
Yeah, I do. And so a lot of them, like I said, they were handed down. So we get them from the Hawaiian language newspapers, yeah. And then luckily there were others that had been passed down verbally actually through some of the families. Yeah. But yeah, I got a little bit more information about each of the stories. And if you want, I can email you a link to different places where you can see it too.
Oh, Nui, yeah, I would love that. I actually have one more question too. I'm assuming you're on the east side of Moku Keawe because you teach at Navahi, right? Are there
Mhm.
any opportunities for Ohana to like get involved or learn more about voyaging from Hilo side?
Yeah, so there's there's so many voyaging canoes. Yeah, pretty much every major island has one now. And of course Oahu, they have several. And then there's smaller canoes. So Hokulea is like a 62-foot one, and there's a lot of 30-foot double-hulled canoes that were made and is being used to teach this art. So there's a few, there's 3 of them right here in Hilo. Where are you, on the Hilo side too?
Yep, in Hilo.
Okay. I put my email in the chat here. Maybe we can kind of connect through that.
Yeah, I will email you, definitely. Mahalo nui.
Yeah, and so most times the way people get onto a cruise on a canoe, all of the canoes, you go down there and you help out in any way you can. There's always dry dock work, and then that's usually how people get involved.
I had a question. Do you know, you mentioned thinking is around the 1400s, this highway. Wondering if you know why people think that these regular voyages stopped occurring.
Yeah, so one of the ideas, the theories is that once the people arrived here, they had put so much work into just trying to survive over here, that they stopped going back. That's kind of the main theory.
Other questions? Yeah.
I have a question. So when the canoe sails to Tahiti, because Tahiti is in the southern hemisphere, I was wondering, does the star compass change while sailing north and south?
Yeah, so it's different. Yeah, when we get down there, it's much higher. Like the Southern Cross is really high up there. And so we have different calculations that we do. Like you saw the people with their hand measurements. Like we measure North Star. Like when I do my shaka like this, it's a distance from the horizon up to the North Star. So everyone has different ones, but it's really different when you go into the other hemisphere. You kind of get used to that, man. And then of course, coming back, we don't see the North Star until we reach just past the equator. And then we can start to use that one. And as it climbs up, we just keep measuring until we reach the 20 or so degrees. But it does, it's a little different. Got to get used to it.
Thank you.
I'm thinking of a question for next week's positional astronomy.
So you said Keika Makali'i. Makali'i was a sailor from Tahiti. Was he a well-known person in Hawaii? Because I mean, there's Makali'i, and Makali'i is pretty important because that symbolizes the start of the Makahiki festival. So I was just wondering if there's some connection there. Or...
Yeah, so no, that's a mahalo for that. Yeah, so he came here and ended up being a chief over here too, yeah. So some people say there's no connection, and then others, because we had kind of that whole disconnect, that some believe that he was the whole thing actually relates to him, the Makahiki season, that Makali'i was named after, well, it was named after him. And so, yeah, it is super important. He is a super important person. Hilo, we're in Hilo, I am in Hilo. He was another navigator that came up from Tahiti. Every time we go back, we get to go and visit his grave down there in Tahiti.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Any last questions from Zoom or in person?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand. Zoom seems to have reformatted on me. Apologies for that. So I was just curious, and I apologize if I missed it, but how long does it actually take to for one to become a navigator, or at least a master navigator? At least at most, I should say.
Yeah. So so this idea, I mean, if you ask the master navigators, they'll tell you guys, they'll say that they're not masters, like because they're told that you're actually not a master until you pass away. So I mean, it'll take there even till today. This is going on almost 50 years later, and they're still learning new things also. But to learn navigation, it depends on how quickly. I mean, everyone's different, yeah. But how quickly you pick up and you can memorize the stars in their houses, that's super important. And then going on the trips to actually observe on the canoe while it's rocking and all of that, and the different scenarios that come up with the weather and all of that takes in plays a big result in the sail, and going through the different weather patterns and all of those. You reach the doldrums close to the equator, and then it can kind of throw off your position if you don't have enough practice. So it varies, but I would say maybe you kind of get the idea pretty much after 2 years, which is pretty fast. But then after that, I mean, like I said, you're always learning new things when you're out there, because then you start observing more detailed stuff, like the different colors in the ripples of the ocean, and those fine things that at first you don't really notice because your eyes, you're not really you're paying attention to more of the bigger stuff, that you don't see those little minute details that like Nainoa Thompson guys actually see.
Oh,
Great,
sorry.
okay.
Thank you so much.
I think we should wrap it up. Let's thank Henani again for a really fascinating talk.
Mahalo for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Bye.